Live from the CBS Bay Area studios, this is KPIX 5 News.
Now at noon, tragedy in Southern California. A gunman opens fire in a bar full of college students, leaving 12 dead. They say that he was 28 years old and used a .45 caliber handgun when he opened fire.
We want to get to reporter Chris Martinez, who is live in Thousand Oaks this afternoon outside the Borderline Bar and Grill. He's been out there talking to witnesses and also parents looking for their kids. Chris?
Well, witnesses here describe a terrifying and just traumatic scene. This afternoon, we are learning more about the gunman here, but officials say his motive is still unclear. Police with guns drawn surrounded a bar in Thousand Oaks, California just before midnight as people bloody and hurt ran for their lives.
All of a sudden you hear like the bang bang of the gunshots, and it just started going crazy and people were pushing. We thought it was a joke.
Witnesses say the gunman, dressed in black, shot an unarmed security guard at the front door. Police say 28-year-old Ian Long then sent off a smoke device and fired multiple rounds into the bar, never speaking a word. Hundreds of people fled, some breaking windows and jumping from the second floor to escape.
We just tried to get out, get behind a car, get behind something, and then
Yeah, we just tried to take cover.
Jason Kaufman's son Cody was at the bar, and he went to a family reunification center looking for him.
And we did just get the news that he was one of the 11 that were hit and killed last night. Only him and I know how much I love, how much I miss. Oh, God, this is so hard. Oh, son, I love you so much.
Police say Long is a Marine Corps veteran and used a .45 caliber handgun in the shooting. They believe he killed himself at the scene. Long's home was searched for evidence.
We have no idea what the motive was at this point.
Sheriff Sergeant Ron Heelis was the first to exchange fire with the gunman and was shot multiple times. Colleagues of the 29-year-old veteran joined in a procession as his body was taken from the hospital to the medical examiner's office. Now, we know the gunman lived with his mother a mere 6 miles from the scene of this shooting, and neighbors tell us that they believe he suffered from PTSD. More than 20 other people were injured in this ordeal, officials telling us that most, if not all, of those injuries are not gunshot related. Reporting live in Thousand Oaks, California, I'm Chris Martinez. Now back to you.
Chris, what can you tell us about the shooter's military background?
Well, we know that he served one combat tour in Afghanistan. He was there for 7 months, and we know that he left the service in 2013. And military officials are telling us that he was a decorated Marine. In fact, one of the awards that he was given was a Good Conduct Medal. So how that experience the Marines potentially played into this, that's going to be one of the things that investigators will look at closely.
Something we're sure will come to light in the next coming days or weeks. All right, Chris Martinez live in Thousand Oaks. Thank you. And right now there is a desperate plea to help the survivors of the shooting.
We do need blood donations. It also has to be coordinated. And so we're working with areas here in Thousand Oaks where we can set up blood banks where people can donate blood.
A group of survivors from the Las Vegas mass shooting was also at last night's shooting. Nicholas Champion says he and his friends were on the dance floor when bullets broke out. He and several others tried to help victims escape the gunfire and even tried treating people on the scene.
I was at the Las Vegas Route 91 mass shooting, as well as probably 50 or 60 others who are in the building at the same time as me tonight. It's a big thing for us. We all are a big family, and unfortunately, this family got hit twice.
Last night's shooting broke out during the bar's weekly line dancing and college night open to the 18 and over crowd.
A live look now in Washington, D.C. The flag at the White House has been lowered to half-staff in honor of the victims of the shooting, and it will remain at half-staff until sunset on Saturday. Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi sending us a statement saying in part our nation awoke to news of a mass shooting of staggering tragedy and heartbreak. The American people deserve real action to end the daily epidemic of gun violence. And Governor Jerry Brown had this message for us today, saying our hearts ache today for the victims of this heinous act, and our deepest condolences are with the Thousand Oaks community and those who lost friends and loved ones. Earlier today, newly elected Governor Gavin Newsom was in the Bay Area. He addressed last night's tragic shooting and praised the deputy who gave his life to save others.
I just want to express my deep respect, my deep admiration to the men and women in uniform, to law enforcement broadly, but to this remarkable sergeant for his act of courage, his act of bravery, his act of heroism, and the lives that he has changed.
Later today, the governor-elect will also be serving meals at St. Anthony's Dining Hall, and we will have more on this developing story throughout the day. Stay with us on air and online at kpix.com.
Breaking news now in Butte County. This new wildfire is forcing thousands of people to evacuate right now. The Camp Fire has already burned 5,000 acres in the Feather River Canyon off of Highway 70, and it's spreading pretty fast. The highway is closed in that area. One witness says heavy ash is falling in Chico, and that's about 14 miles to the west. Authorities just issued a smoke advisory for the entire Bay Area due to this wildfire. In Pleasanton, firefighters responded to several spot fires along 680 in just the past hour. Those fires are now mostly out, and right now it is unclear how they all got started. And right now, multiple firefighters are at the scene of this brush fire. This is in Oakland. Chopper 5 is live over Highway 13. You can see that burned out area. This is near Joaquin Miller. This fire is mostly out, but it is still slowing down traffic in that area.
And Mary joins us now with a closer look at the fire conditions and the dry and windy conditions.
Yeah, a lot to talk about with that very high fire danger, as well as the air quality with the smoke in the atmosphere here. I first want to talk about the fire burning in Butte County, and you can see in the satellite imagery of the smoke burning with that campfire there. It's really clear to see that. So for the Butte County campfire there, we're looking at gusts up to 29 miles per hour, humidity levels down to 15%, and that is northeast of us. And where is that wind direction for us here in the Bay Area? Well, it's coming out of the northeast, and that is why there's an air quality advisory for all of the Bay Area. Now, really, you're going to notice that for the upper levels of the atmosphere. So aloft, hazy, smoky skies. You might smell it as well. We are looking at not a spare the air day, but you'll likely see it in the skies with that smoke coming from the northeast. So we're looking at a red flag warning, critical fire weather conditions. So all Bay Area hills under that red flag warning above 1,000 feet. We're looking at very strong winds, low relative humidity values, and coming up in just a couple of minutes, I'll show you futurecast wind gusts taking you through the rest of today into tomorrow and how strong those winds will get. Back to you.
Mary, thank you. And PG&E is still waiting to decide whether to shut off the power to tens of thousands of people across the North Bay. These 8 counties could be impacted, but KPIX5 reporter Jackie Ward found out that Calistoga and Napa County would be spared.
We are standing alongside Lake County Highway, where PG&E has set up a generator. If the electric company decides to shut off power at some point today, this generator will keep downtown Calistoga and city proper up and running. PG&E says there still might be what they call a public safety power shutoff due to the threat of extreme fire danger still in place. If power lines are turned off, Calistoga won't really feel the effect. PG&E says that's because Calistoga is in a unique spot. It's not a high fire threat area, but it is surrounded by what's called a Tier 3 fire threat area.
We wanted to use every tool that we had to try and minimize impact to customers who weren't in these high fire threat areas. And Calistoga was a perfect example just because of the unique layout of where the transmission lines run and just the uniqueness of the city sitting in the middle of a high fire threat area.
The generator is something that may be considered for other towns to get in the future. Yet PG&E says there are still a lot of safety issues they have to look into in order for that to happen. 130 homes with Calistoga addresses are still receiving cancellation notices from PG&E today because this generator doesn't support homes outside of the city proper. In Calistoga, Jackie Ward, KPIX5.
If power is shut off today, it could be days before it's restored, and that's because crews would have to inspect 3,100 miles of power line before turning the electricity back on.
New at noon, Tesla's board of directors has a new chair, and she's the first female to hold that position. Robin Denholm will be leaving her position as CFO and head of strategy of Telstra, a telecommunications company in Australia. She will be leaving that post after her 6 months notice. Denholm also headed Tesla's audit committee since 2014. Dunholm will be replacing CEO Elon Musk of Tesla. Musk will serve as a resource to Dunholm. And during that transition period, of course, the new management shuffle is part of the settlement with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Back in August, Musk tried to turn Tesla private.
We've learned new details about the explosive device that injured 10 Oakland police officers. 2 suspects have now been identified, including one 13-year-old and one male adult. 23-year-old Giovanni Gaines gave a full confession to officers. Police say he admitted to possessing the device and providing it to a minor. He is charged with assault of a deadly weapon and possession of an explosive device. Now, back in July, the device detonated during a protest for Nia Wilson, injuring the officers. That's when the suspects fled the scene and an investigation was initiated.
A murder suspect accused in a drunk driving crash that killed a baby and her father in Walnut Creek appeared in court today.
And Makovic has more on the hearing.
Much to the family of the victims' dismay, this case was postponed for a second time. Hector Garza and his 8-month-old daughter Camila died as a result of a 4-car crash in Walnut Creek on October 25th. Hector was killed instantly. Camila died the next week.
We're all traumatized by this horrible event.
Some of Garza's family members came to court today only to find out that the defendant, Jessica Martin, hadn't even met with her public defender.
It's important enough to all these people that it should be important enough to get the attorney who's assigned to meet with the defendant and start proceeding with the case.
Martin is facing 2 counts of murder plus 2 counts of causing great bodily injury. Charging documents say she had a blood alcohol level above the legal limit when her car crashed into Hector Garza's. He was driving Camila home from her grandmother's. Jason Toro is the cousin of Garza's wife, Camila's mom.
This is her only child, and she only planned to have one child. She's devastated by this loss. Not only is she grieving the loss of her husband, but she's also grieving the loss of her beautiful daughter.
Now, Martin, the suspect, is 35 years old. She is from Tennessee. Police say she and her boyfriend, who was also in the car at the time of that crash, were here looking for jobs. Kenny and Michelle.
And thank you. Ahead at noon, Jeff Sessions resigns, and now protests are planned throughout the country, including here in the Bay Area.
And coming up later, we'll introduce you to today's Jefferson Award winner. We'll be right back after this.